So I do have another thing I want to go over before we get into playing Among Us with people who will get imposter, and I will never get it because, of course, I don't get imposter when I'm playing with political YouTube. It's like I can't stab anybody's back effectively. Anyway, so I do have to preface this. This is an advertisement that I got while just scrolling through YouTube. And the name of the advertisement was Help Unfuck Our Politics. And I'm not going to lie, that was really compelling. I was like, oh yeah, no, this sounds good. I wonder what he's talking about. But the thing is, I don't think this message actually comes across the way that is most effective. But let's go over it. Let's see. Because when I got this advertisement, I was intrigued, and then there were some key things that were said that just made me go, "You fucking serious? You fucking serious right now?" Okay, so let's go over it real quick.
Politics, as most of the people Are you as tired of politics as most of the people I talk to these days?
Yes, actually, I'm gonna be honest. My channel evolved into politics and social issues rather organically because I was dealing mainly with theism, and when you deal with theism, and by extension, people who think that we should be in a democracy, like Ken Hovind argues, you end up stumbling into politics really hard. Like, if politics was mud on the ground and you were just walking, you tripped over some Steven Anderson video, and then that little wet sound, you've got it all over your face, it's in your eyes now. You step up and you're just trying to figure out if, like, a clay monster shat on you or something, but it's really just mud because you tripped and fell over it. You're here now. You're in political YouTube. You didn't want to be, but, you know, suddenly, here you are on the political side of YouTube. Yeah, I can say I am tired of politics. If I had a choice of what to talk about for a living, it would not be politics. What I would talk about for a living would be, like, video games. Like, look fucking around me. What do you think I want to talk about? So, let's see. Let's continue.
I'm a software engineer, and I like to think differently. I like to ask myself the question, what if we were to start from scratch?
So, I like this idea so far because let's consider for a moment the baggage that is entailed whenever I say somebody's a leftist. And everybody's got a different idea of what that means. To some people, a liberal is a leftist. To some people, just a corporate Democrat is a leftist. And then to people who actually understand political theory, no to any of those. But regardless, there is baggage with that claim. And then when I say Republican, there's baggage to that claim too. There's all this fucking baggage whenever we try to talk about politics and we use labels, and we have to constantly define those labels in those conversations. Like, I was having a chat with a friend of mine yesterday just over League of Legends, and he made a joke that I should be like the Democrat Alex Jones, and I had to sit there and, aside from desperately wanting to do my Alex Jones impersonation, and just tell him the frogs are gay, I had to stop myself from immediately responding, I'm not a fucking Democrat. Okay? Don't call me that. I am a leftist. I am a socialist. I am not a fucking Democrat. Don't. But I didn't end up doing that. So whenever those terms are loaded, though, Democrat to some people just means leftist, which, you know, you and I probably know it's not. So yeah, no, I do at least agree with this in the beginning. I would like to see us start from scratch on political spectrum and just be able to talk about theory and be able to talk about shit like that instead of having to talk about the history of the Democrats or the history of the Republicans.
What kind of government and system and institutions and regulations will we design if we were to start over today? First thing we got to ask ourselves is, what do we want government to do for us?
That is a very loaded question, but in a shorthand, My view is that the government is to be the voice of and the servant to the people. So if you are an official in government, you should be representing the people who put you in power, and then if you are not properly representing them, you should be taken out of power. And then you should also be a public servant. You should not be trying to use the people under you to bolster your position of power. Your job as a government official in any capacity should be to serve the public. If you are part of Homeland Security, you should be serving public defense. If you are part of a housing project, you should be trying to solve an issue of homelessness for the public. That's what you should do as a government official. Now, there are people who don't believe that. They believe the government is there just to enforce law and punish people, and then everything else it shouldn't really have any say in. And I vehemently disagree with that. I believe the government should be the servant of the people, personally speaking.
What is the outcome that we want? Most of the people I talk to, whether they're on the left or the right, agree that what we want is for people to be healthy, happy, prosperous, and safe.
This is true. Usually, you can get people on both sides of the political spectrum to agree with the ails of life. You can say, hey, what are some of the biggest issues in life? Okay, cool. Bigotry, poverty, lack of education, and need for good work ethic if they're a Protestant. You can get them to agree to a smorgasbord of things. But then the problem is when you get to solutions, right? Let's look at poverty. They're going to say the solution to poverty is going to be something like pulling yourself up from your bootstraps. Maybe you need better work ethic. We should be providing better jobs, but never should we actually modify the system to allow people to exist in a way that is not at poverty line. Never should we change the system itself. Never should we up the minimum wage so that people can afford things more easily when they are working their first jobs or when they are working their 15th jobs because they happen to have a myriad of issues that lead them to stay in minimum wage work. Never criticize the system itself. That's a thing that I've seen whenever I talk to people on the right side of the political spectrum, and even people who consider themselves Democrat. A lot of them don't want to change those systems. And when you talk about even incremental reform, they're just like, no, it's an individual problem. Same with bigotry. They'll look at bigotry as a problem not to be solved by reform, revolution, or incrementalism. They'll see it as a problem to be solved by the individual. Well, bigotry is only an issue as long as there are racists, so racists should just not be racist. But if that was actually a material reality we could achieve, we'd already fucking be there. Unfortunately, there's a whole lot of issues when it comes to solving issues like bigotry, like poverty, like education. And again, when it comes to education, parents should save up and take care of their kids. Okay, cool, but what if they never got the ability to? Maybe we should actually set up the system in a way that it serves people instead of fucks them over.
We want the economy to be thriving, and we want a sustainable planet Earth. So if we want roughly the same things, why is it that we fight so much?
Propaganda. I'm going to be honest right now. One of the biggest reasons is propaganda. Look at PragerU. Look at Steven Crowder. Look at Ben Shapiro. Look at anything that you can trace their financial backing to, like the Koch brothers. You will see shit tons of propaganda, and it is in condensed, easy to digest form. And then people spout those talking points to you without understanding the meat behind them. And when that happens, we end up disagreeing on things. Wow, what a concept. And this happens on the left too. I can't really think of a super well-funded organization on the left that creates these same, Turning Point USA, PragerU style, easy-to-digest talking points, but to say that it doesn't happen, to say that somebody doesn't take the take of their favorite lefty YouTuber and just spout it non-critically, without doing some research into why, not to say that doesn't happen. Like, when you talk about something like fracking, and somebody goes, we should ban fracking, and you're sitting there like me on the left going, no, our medical industry depends on it, not only for fuel, but for plastics. Yeah, we should regulate it and get it to a point where we have net zero carbon emissions from it, but you cannot ban it outright, because then you fuck over your medical industry. You fuck over food preservation industries that are also plastic reliant. So you end up having these awkward conversations where people might agree on the things that they want, but they've taken these like easy digestible bits of information from YouTube or from books or from, usually not as much from books, or from advertisements, and they've just regurgitated those. That's one of the biggest reasons we end up having these huge disagreements, is there's this like propaganda wall to get through.
We're focused on what we don't want instead of focusing on what we do want. We're also busy trying.
I'm fine focusing on both. I do want everybody to be out of poverty, and I do want everybody to live in a sustainable environment, and I don't want fascism. Like, I feel like if we focus on what we do want and never focus on what we don't want, then we end up getting these like monkey's paw problems where, congratulations, you got universal health care, but the paw pulled back and suddenly you have authoritarianism. Like, no, I want universal health care, but I don't want that one. Please uncurl that fucking finger. So I think people should be focusing on both. I don't think, granted this is a short video, maybe there's a point that he would like to make outside of that, but
trying to solve abstract problems like crime and poverty and healthcare.
now here's where this is the reason. This statement right here is why I wanted to make this video. I'm going to rewind that one more time so you can hear it.
Busy trying to solve abstract problems like crime and poverty and healthcare.
So, abstract problems like crime, poverty, and healthcare. None of those are abstract. Poverty exists in material reality. Crime exists in material reality. Healthcare exists in material reality. If you're going to have, this is where I start to have a lot of issues with this video. If you're going to call things like those abstract problems, it sounds like they're unsolvable, but there's only one system, in which case those are all unsolvable problems. Currently. In capitalism, poverty is an unsolvable problem because capitalism relies on there being a lower class. It relies on poverty for the backbone of its labor. That's a gross overgeneralization, but it is one of the issues with capitalism. Now, you can solve that with some socialized principles, safety nets and what have you, universal basic income, a standard minimum wage, and control of things like the renter's economy. You can do things like that to solve those issues, but those issues are baked into capitalism. Unfettered capitalism necessitates mass poverty, especially in its late stages. That's not an abstract problem. That's a problem in material reality right now. Crime is not an abstract problem. Fucking crime and poverty are linked. Places that have the highest crime rates also tend to have high poverty rates because a lot of times people commit crimes to make up for the money that they cannot gain elsewhere, at least in the rapid amounts that they need. Like, consider for my situation, I've got $20,000 of home repairs that need to be done so that the house does not get condemned and we end up homeless again. My options for that are do this YouTube thing as often as possible, as best I can, or I could go commit a fucking heist. Like, obviously, I'm not going to do that latter one, but the point is that that's an option that solves that immediately, but it has such a high risk threshold. But that's a crime that would be directly linked to my poverty. That happens so many times. Think of everybody who you know who may have been a drug runner at some point. If you've got a friend who, like, sold pills that were part of his prescription, was he doing it just because he wanted to line his pockets, or was he doing it because he valued being able to afford lunch over having whatever pills he happened to have? In my experience, people usually are doing crimes to make up for some issue that they are lacking otherwise. Now, there are some other crimes that are not like this, things like murder, all the time. But again, a lot of times your high crime areas are linked to poverty and also linked to healthcare. Hell, we have an entire fucking show based on this concept. It's called Breaking Bad. Poverty and healthcare together leading directly to crime, leading directly to a massive drug ring. That's a capitalism reality. That's not an abstract thing. That's a material thing that can be solved through material mechanisms. So when you make a video like this and you go, we're too busy talking about abstract problems like healthcare, bull fucking shit. Healthcare is not an abstract problem. Morality is an abstract problem. Clifford's principle is an abstract problem. The skeptic's dilemma. Whether or not the donkey should go between two equally sustainable, flavorful piles of food, that is an abstract problem. It exists purely in the hypothetical only to make us think. The trolley problem is an abstract problem. Healthcare is not an abstract problem.
You can't solve abstract problems.
Correct, you can't solve an abstract problem. All the time. With the example of the skeptic's dilemma, you can solve the problem of the donkey not being able to go between two parts of food by applying pragmatism. The donkey must survive and therefore must make a choice, regardless of if the choice is the same between the two. However, at this point, we have an abstract problem that has a solution. Now, is it the right solution? Maybe, maybe not, and that might be what he's talking about. But again, this is different than talking about healthcare or crime. Those are issues that are real, not abstract, and have material solutions.
You can only solve concrete problems.
Like healthcare. Concrete problems, like healthcare.
And finally, as a people, we've gotten mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually immature.
True. We just went over a Donald Trump tweet where that's exactly what he was doing. Also, this freeze frame is wonderful. But anyway, yeah, no, I do agree with that.
I think we've gotten here because there are very powerful interests that want to keep us here. And
this is another one of those fun takes. This is not an agreement or disagreement with this. But this is actually a true thing. Also, spiritually immature. If I can give you an example of spiritual immaturity, that would be somebody saying that you need God for your morality. You're immoral because you're an atheist. That is somebody who's using their idea of spirituality to be an immature bigot. That would be my definition of spiritually immature. Also, my eyes. Why are my eyes doing this thing? That's not fun. I don't like that. Please stop, eyes. Here we go. Now I can blink. Anyway, but if I were to throw an example here, when we talk about both sides agreeing on a problem but not necessarily agreeing on a solution, let me point out something where both sides agree on a problem, but that problem exists in a different space. Take your far right-wing, like alt-right QAnoner. This type of individual probably blames a bunch of society's problems, if not all of them, on a group of incredibly wealthy elites. And then you take a leftist like me, and we will also blame a lot of society's problems on a group of wealthy elites. Now, here's the difference. In my estimation, these elites are capitalists, people like the Koch brothers, who are trying to save dying industries like the oil industry, because it keeps lining their pockets and it's better for them to do so, so they push out propaganda to do so. You go on the other side of the spectrum, and this is now the Jewish question. The elites they believe are globalist Jews. Now, I obviously don't believe that these ones are the evil satanic shits controlling the world. But when you sit down and have a conversation with one of these people and you start out the conversation by going, I believe that there's a group of elites that are controlling the world in some shape or form, you guys can at least agree on that. And then you get further in the conversation. And that conversation starts to get real awkward after that point. Also, we have another word for JQers. Whenever they start going, the globalist elites that are controlling the world, or the Jews, and we just call them Nazis. And somebody can sit here and go, well, how do you define a Nazi? That's how I do. That right there. I just did.
those interests are our media, corrupt politicians,
Yep.
powerful corporations, rogue billionaires.
Rogue billionaires? Rogue billionaires. Wait, okay, yep, this is... My dude, the problem is not rogue billionaires. Billionaires in general are a problem. This is why you think... This must be why he thinks that healthcare and poverty are abstract problems. Because it's not billionaires existing, or a system existing that allows billionaires to exist, that is an issue. The issue is the bad billionaires. The bad ones. The bad billionaires are the problem, not just the billionaires. And with only, like, what, 100 billionaires existing in the entire fucking world, what's your definition of a rogue billionaire at this point? Like, what's your defining factor that separates a Jeff Bezos from an Elon Musk, from a Bill Gates at this point? I think the existence of every single one of those creates a problem. Also, criticizing any government is not automatically racist. Just for a thing in the chat.
Foreign adversaries like the CCP and Qatar. We gotta realize that
foreign adversaries like the CCP, so China's Communist Party. I mean, yeah, I can agree, at least with that being not necessarily a model government that I'd like to be allied with personally, but...
Here. We're the ones in charge. They work for us, and when...
Correct. This is now some more of the... This is more like the leftist rhetoric, but it was strewn with a whole bunch of, like, pro-capitalist rhetoric.
We start to talk to each other and realize, hey, the regular folks, you and I, we're on the same team. Let's talk to each other. What we want, what our belief system is. Once we know and we can agree on what it is that we want, we can start talking about practical solutions. We can just be like, hey, let's innovate, let's be creative here, let's test some things out and see what actually works, what actually accomplishes the result. And so that's what I have started a project around. It's called Notable Nation. It's all about this. Once we, the people, are more mature, then the politics is going to take care of itself.
No, because there could be people who are equally mature, but not equally informed. And when you have two people who are equally mature but not equally informed, they may be able to have a spirited conversation. But generally speaking, one of them is going to be a degree or two more correct than the other. Those politics don't just sort themselves out. It's not an automatic thing. But, you know, whatever, I guess.
The solutions to these things, health, happiness, prosperity, safety, thriving economy, sustainable planet, they're actually fairly straightforward. It's not...
Yeah, they are. A lot of them are fairly straightforward. Funding. Secure funding for universal health care. Secure funding so that you can make sure that there are more net zero carbon emission energy production sources. Secure funding so that people can live healthily and happily and not in poverty. Like, a lot of that in our current system is all based on fucking funding. Yes, it is straightforward. Now, what we disagree on is where that funding should come from, I'm sure.
Not complicated, but we're not quite ready. And so it's up to us to be ready and to take the power back and then create that world that we want to live in together.
Okay, so this is a weird... I just realized that the no is still up here. Let me take that out of the way. This is kind of a weird mishmash of appealing to the right-wing, more individualistic, the problem is within us, and the left-wing more, hey, we're stronger together, and there are individuals above us who we need to take down. The, like, individual problem versus class conflict problem, this, like, disagreement that's been happening on the left and right for ages. This is like a weird mishmash of these two things. It's really strange.
And it starts with you and it starts with me. And if you're up for it, go visit notablenation.com, sign up there, join the movement, and we will make this happen together.
So the question, though, becomes, if I were to sign up for Notable Nation, what would that do? What would that accomplish? Would I just be signing up on a website and be one of 1,000 in a petition that would then accomplish very little? Like, what is this going to do?
Overcome the political divide and create the world that we want to live in. So go visit notablenation.com.
Is it just a forum?
Go to notablenation.com. Do it now.
Okay, but again, is this like a... none of that told me what it is. It just gave me a bunch of problems, said that they could be solved through this medium that we are now pushing forward, and then asked me to join the medium. Yeah, it sounded kind of third way, kind of weird. And it's... I don't know what Notable Nation is entirely, but I may do a video on that in the future. What I wanted to point out is some of the issues with kind of the rhetoric that's being used in this particular advertisement. It feels like it's trying to push an appeal to both sides. It's giving me language that I recognize is lefty language, giving me language that I recognize is the right-wing individualistic language. It's giving me a lot of that come together, both of you type of thing. And it's not that I disagree entirely with the message that we need to solve our problems not through division, but through unity. The way it's being done, though, just because you're speaking to both sides, you're almost speaking two different languages at the same time when you say things like healthcare is an abstract problem. Like, when you have to say shit like that, it feels like your appeal has stopped having any material value and has started just being really, really vapid. But that's just my opinion. You know, let me know in the comment section what you think. And if you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe, and maybe go check out Patreon. Those would all be cool things. And I mean, if you're watching the video version of this, you're going to see Patreon slides afterwards anyway. So like, those are neat. But yeah, no, I just the way this message is formatted just feels weird.